I have a paper due in an hour.
This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
Hi, my name is Sandy, and you're watching Saturday on the YARebels. This week's topic is related to the launch of Touched. Along that vein, we're going to talk about why paranormal romance is so awesome, why people love paranormal romance so much. Well, if we're going down to the really basic roots, I think paranormal things and romance are two things that people are just very, very interested in. Love stories in general have always been very popular, have always been written about, poetry, sonnets, everything, love, blah. People like to read about love, it's just a thing. And similarly to the paranormal genre, people like weird things. Maybe not as classically or doesn't have as far back a history as romance novels do, but they do have their appeal. People like things that are fantastical and interesting. I think that might be why, because it's new. Literature in the past has always been, pretty clear cut. Guy meets girl, they fall in love, it is spectacular, something dramatic happens, it gets resolved, end. Where nowadays we have a new take on it. We now have this paranormal take on romance, so things can be interesting in a different way. People don't have to be people in these romances. People can be werewolves and vampires and all that, and they're still hot. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's just a bit of a relaunch for romance. Personally, I do not write romance very well, despite liking to write it and liking to read it a lot. Probably because I am as romantic as a dead slug. I like putting people together and tearing them apart. I've actually been trying to challenge myself recently to not write romantic stories because I'm so tired of writing about these lovey-dovey gooey couples. But in the end, I always revert back to it. But I think kind of like what Gretchen said, having something that's atypical to day-to-day life, something that you don't see every day, is what makes it interesting. And when you throw in swords and blood and monsters and sacrifices, that's interesting. That's not something you see every day. Anyway, I am really sorry for the lack of update from me. I'm kind of frustrated with myself because I told myself to keep up with this, but school has just been very overwhelming lately, especially since the end of the semester is coming up, and that means everything that could ever possibly be due is due either this week or next week. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that is winter break. Unless I die during finals, in which case I left my inheritance under the